The following presentation is about factoring quadratics. Last week, we learned about standard form. Standard form for a quadratic is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Standard form is seen on the left side of the equation, and what we're going to be working on today is factored form. And factored form is a way of rewriting the quadratic into binomial factors. Multiplying binomials. You may have experienced multiplying binomials and know how to do it using the acronym FOIL. FOIL is used to multiply binomial factors to get standard form. F stands for multiplying the first terms, O is the outside terms, I is the inside terms, L is the last terms, and then we're going to combine any like terms we have. So what that means is our first terms are 2x and 3x. When we multiply them together, we get 6x squared. Our outside terms, 2x and 4. When we multiply them together, we get 8x. Our inside terms, negative 7 and 3x. When we multiply them together, we get negative 21x. And then we have our last terms, negative 7 times 4. We end up with negative 28. The last step is to combine any like terms we have. So in the middle, we have 8x and minus 21x, and we can combine them together to form 6x squared minus 31x minus 28. And again, we started with factored form, we multiplied them to get standard form. Factoring is the process of breaking down standard form into factored form. So we have x squared minus 7x plus 12. And what we're going to do is the opposite of what we just did. So we're going to break it down. So first thing I know is when I multiply my first terms together, I need to get x squared. So I have x times x. And then when I multiply my last terms together, I'm going to need positive 12. And when I combine my inside and outside terms, I'm going to need negative 7, which means the symbol on the inside of my factored form are going to both be negatives. To find those two numbers, I asked myself, what number multiplies to positive 12 and add together to give me negative 7? So I'm going to take a look at 12. I'm going to look at all the factors. Negative 1 times negative 12, negative 2 times negative 6, negative 3 times negative 4. That's going to give me my negative 7 that I need. So I'm going to drop those in to the last terms of the factored form. So x squared minus 7x plus 12 is equal to x minus 4 times x minus 3. So here's our standard form. Here's our factored form. A common factor is the term that is the greatest common factor of all the terms in the expression. For example, we have 2x cubed plus 10x squared minus 28x. The common factor for all three of these terms is 2x. So 2x goes into all of the terms. 2x times x squared gives me 2x cubed. 2x times 5x gives me 10x squared. 2x times negative 14 equals negative 28x. So what I do with my common factor is I take it and I put it on the outside of the parentheses. And what's left on the inside of the parentheses is what you multiplied the common factor by. So x squared plus 5x minus 14. And then the last step is to factor x squared plus 5x minus 14. So I find the combinations that are going to give me multiplied to give me negative 14 and add together give me positive 5. And that combination is negative 2 and 7. So the final factored form I have for here is 2x, that's our common factor, times x plus 7 times x minus 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you 3 different methods for factoring the same problem. We're going to run into issues whenever our a term is not equal to 1. So that procedure that I just showed you in the previous slides is not going to work because this problem is more complicated because the a value is equal to 3. So the first method I'm going to show you is called factor by grouping. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down this 10x into two terms that's going to help us find a common factor that can be factored out. So we start with 10x, and I need the 10x to be broken down into two numbers that are going to multiply to give me negative 24x squared. That comes from the first term times the last term, and add together to give me 10x. That combination of numbers is 12x and negative 2x. So again, I need to break down this 10x into two terms. Those two terms need to be add together to give me 10x, multiply together to give me the product of the first term and the last term. So what I do is I replace that 10x with the 12x and the negative 2. And then I look for a common factor in the first two terms. So what term goes into both 3x squared and 2x? And then I'm going to do the same here. What term goes into both negative 2x and negative 8? So 3x is the common factor from the first two terms. Negative 2 is the common factor from the next two terms. And what I'm left with is x plus 4 after I factor out the 3x from both these terms. And I'm also conveniently left with x plus 4 after I factor out the negative 2 from these two terms. And the way I write my final answer is now I'm going to factor out this x plus 4. That turns into my new factor in the front, and then the second factor is the combination of what's left, so 3x minus 2. So factoring by grouping, I got x plus 4 times 3x minus 2. The second method I'm going to show you is called the box method. And again, we're going to do the same problem in a different way. So the box method works like this. You set up a box. Your first term goes in the top left corner. Your last term goes in the bottom right corner. And then you need to fill in these two blanks. The way we fill in those two blanks is by finding the numbers that multiply. They're going to give me the same product of 3x squared times negative 8, and add together give me my middle term again, just like in the last problem. It was 12x and minus 2x. So I'm going to drop those into the missing pieces of the box. To get my factored form, I'm going to pull out a common factor from every row and column. So I take a look at 3x squared minus 2x. The common factor here is x. Take a look at 12x and negative 8. The common factor here is positive 4. 3x squared and 12x, the common factor is 3x. Negative 2x minus 8, the common factor is negative 2. So the way I write my final answer is with the numbers on the outside of my box. So 3x squared plus 10x minus 8 equals 4x plus 4 times x minus 2. The third method is called the bottoms up method. And again, the reason why this problem is harder than the x squared minus 7x plus 12 is because of this 3 term right here. So what we're going to do in the bottoms up method is we are going to temporarily move it. We are going to multiply the last term by the a value. So we get x squared plus 10x minus 24. This problem is much easier because all we have to do is find the numbers that multiply, give us negative 24, and add together, give us positive 10. And in that case, that's negative 2 and positive 12. But we can't just move things arbitrarily because we feel like it. Since we moved it, we have to put it back. So the way we put it back is we divide both of the last terms by negative 3. So then we get this. X minus 2/3 times x minus 12 plus 3. Got a little bit of a typo in here. This should be a plus sign. Okay, and then what we have to do is we have to take a look at these two terms If you can reduce it, so 12 over 3, we're going to reduce it. We get x minus 4. Oh, this should be a positive sign again. Fixing my typo. And then whenever we have a term that can't be reduced, so 2/3, what we're going to do is we're going to take this 3 on the bottom, and we're going to move it up next towards the x. So then we get our final answer of 3x minus 2 times x plus 4.